people. So, real connections is all about real people, real humans that exist on this planet. And we talk to them their real talk with the real, sharing their real experiences, the real wisdom that they have gained so far, but also moving forward. We keep gaining as a human all these experiences and wisdom, and to connect and to reconnect with ourselves is what we do through these episodes of Real Connections. So, Real Connections is all about real sharing information, real sharing experiences and wisdom to all of you, and understand what exactly we humans are made of. And today, I have the pleasure to invite, and you won't believe, as you can see, the background of that person is itself called the inner return. So, we are actually returning to these episodes of Real Connections with Inner Self. So, as discussed, we are going to talk to Kayla all the way from Australia. She's my neighbor, but when I connected with her, absolutely amazed to find that we humans can be so similar, we humans can be so resonating, or we humans can connect and reconnect anytime and any phase of your life. So, without any delay, I want to give a little snip and then we will get straight into it. So, Kayla is a founder of the Inner Return, as you can see at the background. She is a spiritual guide, I can say, or a creator. This is what I understood when I spoke to her. She is a creator, and that's where we resonated because we all humans needs to create. But to create, we need to connect first. But connect with whom? That's $1 million. So connecting with yourself or connecting with inner self is what Kayla actually helps others to reconnect with themselves. By that means is through remembrance, movement, breath, and inner reflection. So she is going to share her journey today of returning home to yourself, which means she's coming back to herself. When he says herself, is all about her body, her mind, her soul. This is what you guys are also needs to connect with yourself, but she helps you to connect that. So you are not alone on this journey. So welcome, Kyla, for this beautiful episode, and thank you so much for doing this with us today. I am absolutely excited to talk more and more and uncover about your journey. So, Kayla, over to you and tell us a little bit about you. Whatever I could introduce, I have introduced, but tell me something about what made you this inner return, the whole thing. But let's get back to your basic life journey. That what is life journey for you have realized with this, the inner return. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, first of all, for letting me be a part of this. Yeah, I've always wanted to do something like this, and yeah, very grateful for the opportunity to yeah, share this with everybody here today. So yeah, thank you everyone that's tuning in and listening. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do I start? I guess at the beginning of everything.
Well, I want to start. Let's go back to your. Let's go. This is
Where do
going
I
to be fun.
start?
To all listeners, this is going to be fun because Kayla and I got connected so much importantly, but so much resonating that I couldn't believe. I was pinching myself every day that is it real that I'm connected to this soul? So we are all souls, we are all spirits, but we are all real people. We are all real humans. And to talk about real things and real talk is really exciting, also nervous also, but sometimes you feel that do I have to be real or do I have to live a fake life? So let's start from that. How does the life journey of human begins? So let's go back to your childhood, Kayla. What was your childhood like? I mean, what was your surroundings? What was your environment? What was the traditions that you grew up into? And how did you, what was your mindsets at that point, even as a little girl, and then we move on from there as a teenage and as you grow. And just for all listeners, this is going to be a real fun because a person who has created the inner return, and I'm going to talk to her about her inner self, is just not me. That I can't believe this is going to be absolutely fun and enjoyment of what a connection can be of a human. So let's go back to your childhood, Kayla. Give me some
Yeah. So
snapshot of those childhood moments.
yeah, I was well, when I was born, I was the child of a young mother. So yeah, she
Mhm.
was only 15, 16 when she had me. So yeah, I guess even being born was like a massive thing in my family. My grandparents were pretty religious as well growing up in that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it was probably a bit of a shock for them. But my nana also lost another child when she
Mm.
was, my mum was only about two, and yeah, she had a stillborn baby. So
Right.
I think they were sort of a
Mm.
little bit happy that,
Mm.
my mum was going to be having a baby and stuff. So yeah, they were very supportive and everything of her decision to keep me. And, being from a Christian background, they don't really believe in abortion or anything like that. So, you
Mm.
know, they said, well,
Absolutely.
we'll support you in your decision. Like you can still stay at home and,
Mm.
we'll support you and all of that.
Hmm.
Like my dad and his family and everything were in the picture as well. They were pretty supportive of everything. Yeah, my dad, when I was about 3 months old, he decided to, he was too young to have a family and everything. They weren't exactly in a relationship or anything like that. It wasn't the traditional sort of
Mm.
relationship or whatever that I was born into. So yeah, he decided to go his separate ways and move somewhere else. So,
Mhm.
it was just me and my mum and my grandparents. So, yeah, they were very supportive and everything. So, yeah, I think obviously
How
my mum
old?
being a teen mum and everything, like she was very,
Mm.
I think it's probably, very new for someone, especially
Yeah.
being that young. So, she ended up having a few mental health issues and that, like it was a bit of a struggle for her.
Right.
Um,
And
so,
how old were you at that time, Kayla? That you remember when your dad
um, So
moved on?
I think I was about 3 months old, so
Wow.
I wouldn't have even have been able to really
So
remember
yeah,
anything.
what a journey that you wouldn't
Yeah.
even, that one would never even imagine, how your journey starts, right?
Yeah.
With
So
all
it was
the,
pretty chaotic and
yeah,
everything already from the get-go.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I guess I was bound to sort of make waves in the
mm,
world in some
yeah,
way. So
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, this is where a soul comes in and your inner self kicks in. But when you became conscious about it, what was your age at that time when you became a little bit conscious about your surroundings that, oh, you have to navigate everything on your own, or you felt that you have not enough support, or were you already there in your mindset that you were very much open for the challenges that you started your career? Or you started your journey. I wouldn't say career. You started your journey as a life journey.
Yeah, yeah. So I always knew that, like I was never told anything bad about my dad or anything like that. Like I still heard from him regularly, like
Yeah.
still, made sure that, I had that good connection with him or whatever, if he
Mm.
was to sort of return. So, there was no hate or anything like that, which was really good. So I
Mm.
guess I always sort of felt loved still, like even though that was happening, like I still feel like I had a pretty supportive family, and
Mm.
my nan was just amazing, like she helped out so much. And yeah,
Right.
she was like a superwoman, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
So I guess you have the genes now for the superwoman,
yeah. That's
which
right.
is quite cool. Mm.
So yeah, and then I guess as I got a bit older, like started going to school and that, I did sort of realize, how different my
Mm.
family dynamic and that was compared to other kids my age. And
Correct.
they had, their mum and their dad, and
Mm.
they had the full family dynamic. And
Mm.
I guess that was a bit different for me and probably harder for other people my age to probably wrap their heads around that as
Correct.
well. So
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
want.
I always sort of felt like I didn't really fit in much
Mm.
in that sense as well. And then, yeah, I started going to school, and yeah, there
Mm-hmm.
was like a few issues there just with fitting in with other kids and that. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember sitting out recesses and lunches, and even the teachers and that wouldn't really understand me. Like I would get in trouble or blamed for things that other kids had done, and then I would
Mm.
get the blame. And then I remember having to sit out, time out, and everything, and
Wow.
being so upset because I'm like, well, I haven't even done anything. And so, yeah, I was sort of always misunderstood and
Mm.
all of that. And
Mm.
yeah, so I always knew I
So,
was a bit different in that sense.
so when you look back now and the comparison that at that time what you was going through with other kids comparatively wise, like other kids had parents or no parents, but they were like looked after and they were loved. Did you feel that you were, like as you said rightly, that you were misunderstood or misinterpreted, and then but did you feel that that mindset which was going on, how did you manage it at that time? And how did you come to terms with yourself that no matter whatever it is, whatever people say, I'm going to be what I am? Is that what you thought, or how it changed you, or how you changed your own mindsets from there?
So yeah, obviously, I feel like I got shut down a lot as a kid,
Mm.
and I do remember being so, happy-go-lucky, not really
Yeah,
caring much about anything. And I think, yeah, it wasn't until I started going to school that it really
right.
was an issue. And yeah, I think after a lot of things, I just thought, well, if I don't say anything, if I just suppress my emotions and
Mm.
just be a good kid and do what everybody wants of me and don't answer back and just follow the rules, then, I can't get in trouble. So, I started going to another school after all of that. And, my
Hmm.
mum took me out of the school. Um, and then, yeah, I guess I just was a totally different kid after that. Like I was just very quiet, very reserved, just
Mm.
did what I was told, sort of thing. And I guess, yeah, it just sort of went from there. Like
Hmm.
that was
And
my mindset. And
mm.
yeah, it sort of just carried on through the
So
rest of
with
the
your
years.
surroundings and with the environment, did any influence happen with regard to the mindsets that or influenced your mindsets at that time? What were the influential mindsets that happened to you, whether it was your cultural or whether it's your religion or traditional or your friends circle or environment that you grew up in? Was there any influence of on you in terms of what you are at that time? To manage and everything, your mindsets, basically.
So I didn't really have, like, my home life wasn't really great, I guess.
Right,
Like I
right.
saw my mum go through, domestic violence and that, and,
Right.
a few violent things. And,
Hmm.
I always remember having to like soothe my mother and making sure she's all right. So I guess growing up, I sort of always felt I had to please everybody around me and,
That's right.
make sure that everything was
Mm.
peaceful and everything all the time and not being a
Mm.
bad kid and not causing
Mm.
stress. So yeah, I guess I was just a people pleaser. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get anyone, like I
Right.
didn't want to make anyone upset and that. So yeah, I just did whatever I could to be what everybody else wanted me to be, I
Mm.
suppose.
So what about like every kids you must be meeting, or some of your kids that friends or surroundings, they wanted to, as a child, we always dream of doing something or becoming something when you grew up, when you want something. Did you had those kind of things as well during that time, in spite of all your issues or concerns that you had compared to other child?
Yeah, so despite all of that
Mm.
sort of stuff, like I was still a pretty happy kid, like in my own environment, like on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being alone didn't really bother me. Like
Right.
I was always did my own thing, was always in my own little world. So,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I was always very creative in that sense. Like always loved to dance, loved music, was always
Wow.
quite happy and didn't
Mm.
really let those things get to me.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I was still very,
So you were still more expressive in that regard of for yourself.
Yeah, in that regard, yeah.
So that's
Um,
cool. And that's how what people must be listening, and they will be saying that I have a child and I grew up, and they blame the childhood because this happened to me. That's why I became like that and things like that. But with you, when you look back now, do you think that you are pretty cool or pretty okay to not get sidelined or not get dimensioned into one thing or two things because of the influence that you had at an early child, as an early child? Did you think that that was not the case with you because you accepted and expressed everything that you wanted at that time?
well, I wouldn't say I expressed everything that I wanted. I was just, instead
Hmm.
of expressing myself, I would just go inwards and,
Right.
I would just be creative. Like I would just, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dance around or, yeah, I wouldn't let things get to me as such. So,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so how was your journey after the thinking that okay, as a school, and then you went into high school, or what was your transition from there with not just moving from one thing to another, but also age-wise when you kept changing your mindsets? Did you had that kind of experiences that you wanted to do this now and you were confident, and how you were like dependent or independent? Because since childhood you became kind like more on your own and as an independent, but also I mean, you had to live around with everyone that must be influencing that, hey, let's do this, let's do that, or we should do this, or you should do that. Were there anything like that kind of pressure from any of your friends or environment or family or anyone that, okay, this is what you have to do now, Kayla, you are good in this or good in that? Was there anything like that? Or you said, nah, I'm gonna do what I have to do? Something, how was?
So yeah, that didn't really come until later in life. So I was pretty,
Hmm.
yeah, I didn't have a lot of confidence or like I
Mm-hmm.
had pretty low self-esteem and that because of the things that I went through as a
Right.
kid. Like I said, I was very reserved. Um, but yeah, a lot
Mhm.
of the friends and that I did have, they were pretty toxic relationships. Like I would express, I want to be a singer or I want to be this, and kids would just
Mhm.
laugh at me and be like, yeah, well, that's never going
Yeah.
to happen. Just
Yeah, yeah, I
stuff
know.
like that. So you just sort of think you're silly. And yeah, like I've always been quite spiritual, even from like a kid.
Mm.
So I used to get made fun of because of that, because, I believed in ghosts and the paranormal and the supernatural. And, I've always been drawn to that stuff. And that was sort of how I expressed myself. Like, yeah, I would sort of just go into my own little fantasy world and, yeah, just look up all
Yeah.
of this stuff,
So you had a
esoteric
very
sort of
young,
stuff and
yeah, yeah, I can
yeah,
see
aliens
that.
and everyone just thought I was weird and yeah, I
Mm.
got made fun of because of that and I was called the weird ghost kid and everything and but yeah, I think once I sort of got a little bit older, I sort of suppressed that and I thought, oh well, people think this is weird, like I got to stop doing this weird shit then because
Mm,
no
mm.
one's going to want to be my friend or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that. So I think, yeah, by the time I got to high school, I was,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess a bit lost. Um, yeah, I ended up going and staying with my grandparents and
Hmm.
everything because, yeah, my mum suffered with mental health and addiction and that sort of stuff. So it just wasn't a very good environment for me to be in.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I ended up going and staying with my grandparents. And then, yeah, I guess, yeah, um,
So
from there,
how did you deal with this kind of, different that you being yourself considering or understanding yourself that, you are a different when it compares to other people who normally think traditionally go by the flow or go by the environment and their friends' thoughts. And then they think you are weird because you are outside the box. You always think differently
yeah.
like as you said, aliens. So there is always ghost people, there is always aliens in this universe. So you call yourself an alien, which is quite good because that's where I say that spiritual people, that's where the spirit comes in and recognizes you, who you are. and then other people, they are not spiritual, or they don't recognize their spirits yet, so
Yeah.
they find it very difficult to deal with you.
It's hard
So
to understand if you don't
hard to
you've
understand.
never
Yeah.
really, yeah,
So in terms of that, like, it's a early age, at a very young age, you became that kind of awareness of yourself in terms of spirit, or in
yes.
your inner self.
I always felt like a bit of an old soul, like I was a bit
Wow. Mm,
older than the
mm,
people I was around. Just
mhm.
more mature, I think.
Yes,
But
yes, yes, more
like I've
mature.
always been friends with older people and
And
yeah,
what
never
was that
really been able
experience?
to get along with people my own age either. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
So what was that experience like, trying to be completely different or understanding more than what others normally understand? Because when you say at your age matured, it means you understand more intuitively, more proactively, more positively. You understand the future or the few things ahead of your times. And that's a challenge itself to talk to someone. So,
mm.
like, it's always good when you speak to. Maybe that's the reason why I connected with you quite early or quite fast,
Maybe.
that I can understand where you're coming from, or which planet are you. But that's a cool thing. And I think, I guess, for all the listeners who are listening, actually, they all have this kind of understanding or this kind of spirit, but because they don't probably express, or they don't understand themselves more to express, they remain where they are, and they don't come out of their comfort zone of, in spite of their talent, they remain where they are, and in spite of their understanding, they don't want to make others feel that I understand more than you. What was that challenge? I want to know, because it's very hard. It's like a ego thing, that people think, oh, is she knows better than me? Is she clever than me? It's she knows too much of me, and she's thinking too much of herself, or all that things can easily come when you try to, portray that you are intuitive, that you are visionary, that you know much better. But the other side of the coin is, what I'm saying is, then these people are visionaries, these people are proactive, these people know, understand intuitive, they understand faster, they grow faster, they grow more better and quicker. But then other side of that, people think, oh no, they are egoistic, or they think they are smarter, they are clever, but they don't know anything. That's how some will describe. And that is itself is a challenge. That's like two inner souls coming and talking different language. Does that make sense, Kayla?
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
you how did you navigate that? What was your
Um,
style of navigation in that? Like, you have to convince yourself rather than others first. That, do I have to listen to others, what they're saying, or do I have to listen to myself? That's a challenge that you have. How would you describe that with you?
I don't really know.
Like, when you have a mindset of your own, and when you understand more, even a little thing that you understand more, but people either express and they get told off, or they don't express because they think they will be told off. So they don't.
Yeah, so I didn't really express any of that. Like I've always been pretty,
Hmm.
well, I don't know. Like I said, I got bullied quite a bit and, low
Yes, yes.
self-esteem. So I always thought I
Hmm.
was just stupid, to be honest. Like
But how did you came out of this bullying
I
mindset?
didn't really think that I was smart or anything. I just, yeah.
But when you think that, when you are bullying, tell me something that, yes, it's a very different experience for people going through, or realizing that I'm been bullied rather than I am not been bullied. To accept that itself is a challenge for every human. So how would, when you knew that, okay, now you're saying, when you reflect back, that you were bullied, but at that time, how did you made those transitional in your mind, that in spite of, I know what I am been bullied, but I still have to, survive or grow from here, or get out of this situation.
So
What?
yeah, I ended up developing social anxiety.
Right.
Um, so
Mhm.
yeah, I had to go and yeah, I went to two psychologists and I think a counselor as well. But yeah, no one really helped me. I turned to drugs and alcohol and like to fit in with everybody. I just did what everybody else was doing. Like I
Right.
went
In spite
out
of your
partying.
in spite of your visionary alien knowledge, you still
Yeah,
went into the status quo or
yeah.
the
I suppressed that whole part of myself and
right, right.
yeah, I became very, yeah, just
Mm.
unawakened.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
lost
I
I
get that.
lost who I was. I lost that part of myself, I guess. And I just yeah, for a long time I was quite lost. Yeah, I
Mm.
turned to a lot of substances. I
Mhm.
went through a lot of
Mhm.
violent relationships,
Mhm.
toxic friendships, yeah, you name it.
Right, right.
Had
So
to
everything
really
in the
learn the
books of the
hard
universe.
way. Yeah.
Learn the hard way. Right. But how did you now, well, now that you have completely become a soul of inner, the return, as you always say, that we always return to ourselves and we have to return to ourselves to understand with these challenges that we face. What was your triggering point? What was your turning point that after all these issues, not issues, I would say all the challenges, as you said, the drug addiction or the toxic relation or the abuse and or the violence and everything that you experienced, and then what was that triggering point that you said, enough is enough, now I'm going to change or I'm going to make this transition for myself? What was the triggering point that you would now go back and look back?
So I think there was two pivotal moments, I would say.
Mhm.
The first one would have been after leaving an extremely abusive relationship. Like it
Right.
could have been fatal if I stayed. And yeah, yeah, it was just crazy. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, I started to get more into my spiritual side again then. Like
mm.
I remember finding the crystal in the shop and being really drawn to it. And then that's sort of what got
Right.
me back into my
Right.
spirituality and everything. I mean, it was just something small. And then, yeah, I got right into crystals. And then I just
Mhm.
started getting right into, astrology and,
Mhm.
all of the things that I'd forgotten that I, was into. I finally found that and was, delving deeper into that again. And I guess that was sort of the start of
Mhm.
my journey, but I think a lot of things still held me back at that point. Like I still very much struggled with my anxiety and
Mhm.
um, those negative thoughts and everything like that. Um, but yeah, I think it was probably a few years after that. I was pretty happy at this point, I would say, just had a pretty good job, pretty good
Mhm.
partner and everything at this point. And like I was on a lot of medication for my anxiety and a few other
Mhm.
things. And I'd gained a bit of weight, which, I wasn't too happy with because I've
Mhm.
always been pretty small, like pretty skinny. So I think to gain a bit of weight, it was a little bit of a shock and
Right.
wasn't probably something I was ready for. So, yeah, I'd gained a bit of weight, probably wasn't the healthiest in regards to what I was
Sure.
eating and
Mm.
fitness and all of that sort of stuff. Um, and then, yeah, I just remember being very tired all the time, had migraines all the time. And from these bad migraines that I was getting, I was being sick, like vomiting, and
Mm.
yeah, it was very nauseous. Oh, it was just horrible. But yeah, I didn't really know what was happening at the time. I just thought they were bad migraines
Mhm.
because it does run in my family and I've been told that, so I didn't think it was anything to be alarmed about. And
Right.
I even told my doctors multiple times and they just would prescribe me painkillers and that for it. They wouldn't ever really look into
To
what
the
was
real,
happening.
yeah, the real.
Yeah, so yeah, I think one day I was just got up out of bed. I was excited because I was going out with a friend, like we just
Mhm.
organised to go out for lunch and everything. And yeah, I was just about to walk out the door, and I had a little bit of a headache, but nothing major. And
Mhm.
yeah, I remember I got really bad allergies and just had a massive sneeze
Mhm.
attack. And yeah, I
Mhm.
remember my vision just went really blurry. Like I
Right.
started getting this ringing sound in my ears, and I couldn't see anything. It was really dizzy. I remember I rang my nan, I think it was at the time, and I just said, like, look, I'm not feeling too great. Like, I'm not sure what's going on. And
Mm.
she just said, oh, well, see how you go tonight. And, if you're still feeling bad or whatever, maybe go
Right.
up to the hospital. And
Mm.
anyway, she ended up talking me into going to the doctors because it was just getting worse. I managed to get in that day, and the doctor looked over me and she said, oh,
Mm.
not too sure what's going on. Like, yeah, if she gets any worse, take her up to the hospital tonight. And yeah, I wasn't any better. And yeah, so I had
Mm.
to go up to the hospital and stayed in overnight. They did some CT scans and they found that I actually had a blood clot in my brain.
Wow.
So that was, yeah,
Wow.
pretty scary.
Yeah,
I was only 20 years
definitely.
old. So, this sort of stuff only happens to people that are usually in their
Yeah,
70s, 80s,
absolutely.
like
Absolutely. But
not
as you said,
someone
you are an old
20.
soul. For all the
Yes,
listeners, I mean, we are not making fun or anything, but we are just seeing how human life can have challenges,
crazy.
but then how you can
Crazy.
actually take everything under the chin. So we are just having a good time here by talking these beautiful, real moments that Kayla is facing. So yeah, I understand you exactly. Like certain things happens only at a certain phase or certain medically when it is assessed. But then it can happen at any age and it can happen to anyone. That's the reality,
Yeah,
right?
no one's immune. It
No
can
one
happen
is
to
immune.
absolutely anyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
So I
So,
want to ask you this here, just to take a pause and want to ask you, like, when you have these all sorts of what you said, the negativity, the abusive relation, the drugs, the addictions, the everything that you said, and that then makes completely into easily into health issues, into mind issues, into all sorts of sicknesses that can cause or that can come through just because you have those kind of external relations or
yeah.
external abuse or external things that happen, then internally you are facing problems of health and mind, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, and I'm inclined because I know I will get a good answer from you because you have done this inner return now at a stage where you are quite young and you are still understanding the spiritual aspect. I want to ask you these two things. One, you somebody by words abuses you or by physical abuses you, the words get straight into your mind and then the physical gets straight into your body. And then that complements or that contracts into different causes like the health issues, the mind issues, everything. And then you have to have the challenge, like you are dealing with both the things, the physical aspect and the mind aspect, right?
Yeah.
Tell me something. This is going to be all for all listeners as well. You will face this, and everybody faces at some stage of their life. What was your kind of management in that regard that you can easily have a setback, you can easily have a depression, you can easily go into a different dimension, but then how did you manage to where you are today that you returned, which means you were quite, I would say that you, in spite of all that, whoever is listening, you have managed quite well in that regard. So how did you do that? How did you did that? Tell me about that little.
So, after something like that happening to you, it sort of opens your eyes. So, they
Mm.
found out that the blood clot was actually caused by the contraceptive pill. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that was pretty scary.
Of
And
course.
you are sort of warned about these risks, and it is very, very rare.
Mm.
Um, it doesn't happen to a lot of people,
Correct.
but it does happen, and it can happen. Um,
Yeah.
and that sort of just opened my eyes to the whole healthcare system and how certain pharmaceuticals and that are just not good.
Mm.
And just, yeah, it opened my eyes to, natural alternatives and that as well, because, yeah, I had to be on blood thinners for quite a few years. And,
Right.
like I wasn't very healthy. So, I totally changed my life around in that regards. Like I started exercising, like lost some weight. I
Mm-hmm.
went off of all of the medications and that I was on.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a strict plant-based diet for about 3 years. I, yeah, started to get right into my spiritual practices. Like I started studying yoga and
Mm-hmm.
um, astrology and, all of that sort of stuff. Um,
Even tarot, right? You did some tarot as well, tarot reading.
yeah, yeah, some
You got
tarot
into that as
reading.
well. That's, yeah, tarot reading.
But
Beautiful.
yeah, mainly the holistic practices helped me the most. I think breath work and the yoga. And I
Mm.
also invested into an energy coach as well, who I worked with for about 6 months. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she really helped me, like, um, with my spiritual practices and come up
Right.
with a routine to
Mm-hmm.
help me. And yeah, she just really helped me a lot with everything. And
Mm.
I feel like with her work, she actually sort of helped heal my health condition in a way, because
Mm.
yeah, like I didn't want to be on blood thinners anymore, and I knew it
Mm.
wasn't very good. Like they didn't really know anything about what they do to younger people.
That's true.
And yeah, I just didn't want to be on these tablets forever. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, eventually they told me that um, the blood clot was gone. And I honestly didn't believe them at first, because it was such a shock, because I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
struggling with it for 7 to 8 years and
Mm.
still didn't
True.
really have any answers or whatever. And yeah, by me totally, well, I believe by me totally changing my life and
Mm.
yeah, turning to my spirituality and turning to other coaches to help me holistically really did help heal me in a way. So I sort of feel it was a bit of a miracle in that sense.
Mm.
And
Mm. Correct.
yeah, it's been what, 3 years now, and yeah, I'm fine. Like I have
So did
no
you so did you think at that time was there any support in terms of environmental, physical, family, or any surround support? Or because you were dependent on medications, you were dependent on a lot of things that your mind was completely different at that time.
Yeah, so I was very, very sick. I
Mm.
was in hospital for, well, I was
Mm.
meant to be in hospital for months, but I only
Mm.
lasted about 9 days. And
Wow. Hmm.
I was just not in a very good place mentally. And I just said, look, I need to get the F out of this hospital. Like, I
Hmm.
need to go home and heal in my own environment.
Right, right.
I can't be here. But at the same time, I was also on a drip, and, I couldn't just leave. So they said, well, look, if you can start to hold your
Mm.
fluids down and that, you can go home. So,
Mm.
me being the stubborn person I am, I just,
Yeah.
yeah, just did whatever I could. But yeah, I was very
Mm.
in and out of sleep all the time. Like I was
Mm.
dosed up on a lot of different painkillers and that, because I was in a lot of pain with the
Right.
pressure in my head. And I couldn't really eat or anything because I was just vomiting all the time. I couldn't
Hmm.
really do anything. It
Right.
stuffed up my vision. Like my vision went all blurry. My eyes were turning in. I
Mm.
had to wear an eye patch for months to like try and correct my eyes. And
Mm.
it also stuffed with like my balance, and I was very dizzy. And yeah, it was just horrible. I honestly thought I was going to die. It was that
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, that's what I was about to come and ask you that. What was that like last moment? These moments are very challenging, but these moments also make you stuck or make you feel that you can't move from here
Mm.
anywhere, and you want to live this, not live this life. You want to move, but
So yeah, I couldn't really do anything. Like
Mm.
my whole freedom was taken from me, and
Correct.
freedom is something that I value quite a bit. So to
Mm.
have all of that taken away from me, and being so young as well, and just wanting
Correct.
to be a normal 20-year-old like everybody else,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, not being able to drive, not being able to study, not being able to do anything, couldn't go on my phone, couldn't watch TV, couldn't watch
Mm.
movies, nothing. I just had to sit there and all I could do was listen to music. And yeah, I love music. It's always saved me in,
I think music
my
is.
darkest times. So yeah, I'm so grateful that I still have that, because I feel like if I didn't have music, I probably would have gone absolutely insane. To
No,
be
I
honest, it was
understand.
just a very dark time. And yeah, it made me put a lot of things into perspective for me, because I
Hmm.
sat there and I thought, well, I could actually die at this point in my life. And what have I done? All I've done is cared about what people think of me. I've suppressed all of my emotions for years.
Mm.
Like, I don't really do anything, go out, have fun, do anything, because I'm just
Yeah,
too
true.
scared, too anxious
Who's
to ever
scared?
do anything, just constantly letting my fears get in the way of everything.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
just thought, like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need to actually go out and start living. Like, if I get through this, like,
Mm.
if I live through this, I need to, raise awareness for other people. And,
Absolutely.
I feel like I sort of found my purpose in a way going through,
Mm.
not only that, but a lot of everything else that I've been through in my life as well.
Mm.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, it wasn't a total waste of time, I guess, in that sense. But
true.
yeah, I just thought, yeah, like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And yeah, like, it was a few months off my 21st birthday, and I really just wanted to have my 21st, be a
Mm.
normal 21-year-old and have a big birthday and do all
Yeah.
of that. And yeah, I managed to get myself well enough to,
Hmm.
yeah, I got myself off the painkillers. And I thought, if I want to make this work, I'm going to have to, yeah, change my health and,
Mm.
yeah, do all of the things that I did. And
Yeah, because
yeah, I guess
medication
that's
can
sort of
put.
what started it all. I just thought, stuff it. I'm not going to let anything hold me back anymore. Like, everything I want to do, everything I said that I was
Mm.
going to do, like, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I'm not going to let anybody tell
Hmm.
me that I can't anymore.
No, so true, so true. And with young age, at a young age, you always want to do a lot of things. You also want to navigate your own life the way you want. As you said, you are very stubborn. You can be very stubborn. You very this. So I can imagine and I can understand every person at that age probably are going through this phase of life.
Yeah.
But the idea is to talk about that and to how you challenge and manage these challenges about your own mindsets is very important for listeners to listen. And that's where you are today, is because of those acceptance of those challenges and then not letting anyone control you, basically, or not letting yourself depend on anything, whether it is medications, whether it is people, whether it is
Yeah.
in said, you're not letting. And that's the beauty of what I can take it from here for all the listeners, that you may face a lot of things in your own way, challenges, but then the idea is you don't let anyone control you. And you always look for that freedom for you. Unless you become free, freedom, recognize your freedom, you won't be able to navigate. So you got to have your freedom first, right? That's what I could understand, Kayla.
Yeah.
Um, let's move from where you were and what challenges you have given. Now, when you look back, what do you think has made you who you are today? That who you are, as you said, like you were quite young but old soul. So you understand the old values or the values of a human life and a human journey. And that's what I want to talk about more, because when you talk about the inner return and when you talk about your life journey, this is all about you, how you have navigated to yourself into your own inner self. And I want to touch on that as a life journey of you, that when did you realize that this is your inner power? This is your inner who you are. How did you recognize that? Tell me something about that so all listeners can also try to probably understand their own self. Because anyway, you do help them to understand themselves. So first, let's understand what Kayla understood about herself. Tell me about that.
So yeah, I realized at that point that I had a purpose, I guess. I
Right.
realized, not many people go through the things that I've been through at
Yes.
such a young age,
Yes, correct.
um, in such a short time frame as well, I suppose you could say.
Mm.
But yeah, I feel like it's all been for a reason. Back then, I never knew that. Like, I always thought, why does all of this, crazy stuff happen to me? Like,
Mm.
why me, sort of thing. But
Right. Right. Right.
and then I realized that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's
Right.
not a, a bad thing. Like, it was more for a purpose. I just never
Sure.
knew for a long time.
Mm.
I just never knew that for a long time. Yeah.
Mm-mm. So you
Yeah.
think now that your inner self, that who you are, what would you say about yourself today if I have to ask you innerly rather than just what outwardly people can see and people can judge with your words or with your thoughts, but innerly, how would you describe yourself now today, that understanding the whole universe that we have to manage and we have to navigate? How would you describe yourself in that regard as your inner self, as your inner soul?
So yeah, I guess I used to never really see who
Mm,
I was. Like, for a long time, I just
mm,
believed everybody else's views on who I was. I guess I never really had my own views on who I was. But
correct. Yeah.
and I guess it sort of makes me angry now,
Mm-hmm.
like realizing now how amazing I am, like seeing myself in a totally different light to how I used to see myself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just crazy that I actually let people make me think such horrible things about myself. And
Right.
yeah, it just angers me that I actually thought that. And it's like now I've finally awoken to
Mm,
myself, like who I am. Like, I can finally see
yeah.
the power and, how amazing I am, and that, and how resilient I am.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess it's
So how
really
much
strengthened
importance?
me in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I ask you this question for all our listeners to listen, how important it is to understand your own self and how to recognize your own, as you said, the power, the skills that you have, how important it is now that you can see yourself for every human as you would describe, whoever is listening, how much importance you would give to recognize yourself in your inner voice or your inner self.
So yeah, if you don't know who you are, then yeah, you'll just let anybody tell you who you are, basically. You
Yes,
need to
that's a
know,
good
you
thing. Yeah.
need to get to know yourself. It's really important, because
Mm.
once you know yourself, you're not going to ever let anybody tell you who you are. And,
Mm.
only you can dictate who you are. No one else can. And your past can't dictate who you are either. So,
So, like leading your own life and leading your own self, basically.
yes, just being self sufficient and
Hmm.
yeah.
Right, right. So I wanted to, now this is amazing that what you are saying to all the listeners, and I wanted to ask your final kind of thing where if suppose you have to describe a human journey now that you have realized what you have gone through many challenges, you have gone through all sorts of whether physical, whether mental, whether the dependency on medications to live, to survive, to grow, whatever, to come out of the situations and the circumstances that you have gone through. What would your message would be to all the listeners who are listening today, that if at all, any circumstances, any changes that happens in your life can happen anytime and it does happen. So what would be the mindset now that when you look back should be just the way you want to describe to them that, this is what I did. So it may work, it may not work, but then this is how the human journey, as you rightly said, that, first understand yourself, otherwise you won't know your purpose. And then if you don't know your purpose, then you are just listening and you are just listening to others, what they want you to do. So in that regard, what would be your message to all the listeners that, as a life journey that we are doing this topic on you, what will be your message to the listeners?
Just yeah, be yourself and don't let people tell you who you are. Like share
Hmm.
your truth because yeah, you never know who might actually need
Sure.
it. Like like our pain is actually our power. Like everything that we have been through is our
Hmm.
purpose. Like it's there to help guide someone else on their journey. So yeah,
True.
always speak your truth and yeah, someone might need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Hmm.
always chase your dreams and
Hmm.
yeah.
So now, if I ask you the purpose that you live, we have a. I want to ask this final question so that to understand, and we don't know our life journey, we don't know yeah, certainty of our life, and we don't know how to what coming next and what's not, right? With knowing all of these realities of a human journey, irrespective of gender, irrespective of age, irrespective of circumstances and challenges that we face, what would you say as a human life journey that we all are born or a purpose on this to live our journey, irrespective of whatever challenges, circumstances come? But then, how do we make those mindset to live this journey? What should be your like a one or two tips that you could say that this is what I think we should have, then we are in a proper frame of mind, or we can achieve a lot, or we can navigate easily, or we can manage easily. What would be that one thing, two thing that you want to say to manage?
Um, I would probably say, well, yoga and breath work have probably helped me the most on my journey.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah,
Hmm.
and meditation as well. Just
Hmm.
yeah, you don't really need to go to anybody else for the answers. Like everything that you need is already inside of you. Like all the answers that you need are within. You just need to listen and yeah, really take the time to
You just listen to yourself, huh?
yeah, to listen
That's
to
the
you,
main thing, huh?
get to know yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Kayla, before we wrap this up?
Um, no, no, I think I've covered most of what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you
And when you
for
look
taking
back
the
now,
time to
no, when you look back now at this point of time of your life, and you have created this beautiful inner return, give a little bit about that. What made you do this inner return? What was the idea behind it?
so well, I'm 29 at the moment and I've
Mhm.
just entered my Saturn return period. It's like
Mhm.
a pivotal point in your life where, you start to,
Mhm.
you know, want to change direction in your life, like whether it be career or
Right.
something
Mm.
like that. And yeah, I guess I've really found myself over the years and learned to really,
Right.
yeah, it's about returning to myself before, the world got
Mm.
to me basically. And
Right. Right.
yeah, so the inner return, like returning back to who I was,
Mhm.
remembering who I was before
Correct. Mhm.
everything. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love
Thank
the
you.
title, The Inner Return. And I think all listeners, probably I can say whatever I understood for all the listeners, as Kayla mentioned, but I understood Kayla in a different spiritual way, the way she has put it through, because not everybody wants to go, because you can't go inside yourself, right? It is not physical door, but it's a mental door that you can go in anytime, in any way. It's
Yeah.
not like you have to make a time or make an appointment to get in.
No.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Kayla? And so, for all listeners, you got to go back to yourself every single moment, and anytime you feel that you have been let out or you don't, feel uncomfortable, the most comfort zone is your inner self. And I think that's where we all have to be. So, today I had the pleasure to get into inner self of inner circle, we call it, and we are all, we are all humans. We all come with the similar kind of surroundings or the environment or the structure inside our mind, body, and soul. The only thing is the direction and the dimensions could be different, but then at the end of the day, we all come from the same place, all go from same because nobody has seen those places. So with that note, I want to take this opportunity once again, Kayla. Thank you so much for sharing your life journey with all
No,
the
thank you.
challenges. Yeah, all the challenges that you have gone through. I can't believe that you are still here talking to me, which is great. That means I want to talk more and more about this. So, listeners, please write to us if you are inspired or if you want to know something more, because her inner return is all about helping others. It's about making you go into yourself with mind, body, and everything. And so that is what she does. This is what she wants you guys to do. But if you're stuck, she's always here to help. We all here to help each other. So let's get on with that. And I want to wish you, Kayla, a beautiful life journey that once again we will come back and uncover other journeys, other challenges that you must have been going through because every phase is different. But up till now, we can stop here and look back and realize that this is what we humans are, to talk about our life journeys, to share our experiences, to share our wisdom, so that all and everyone can be supported and healed with each other's thoughts and mindsets. With that note, Kayla, thank you. And all listeners, we will come back with some more topics with Kayla. As you know, Kayla is a very spiritual soul because of the inner return that she has created. So I'm more aligned with talk more about spiritual talks, if you like, beyond what you see. And that's the spiritual talk, is beyond what you see from your eyes, because spiritual talks cannot be seen from your eyes, but it has to be seen from your vision mind that is completely unlimited, infinite. With that note, Kayla, thank you once again for doing this
Thank
with me.
you.
And I will come back
Pleasure.
to you. Yeah. Your final word you can say, and then we'll close this chapter.
I just wanted to say, yeah, thank you all for tuning in and yeah, taking the time to listen to my story. And yeah, hopefully it's helped someone out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
love.
Love you, Kayla. Love you all listeners. Please do tune in and talk to us. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Bye.